The rain fell in silver sheets across Manhattan, the kind of storm that made even the wealthiest scramble into their town cars and private jets. Inside the towering glass walls of St. Mark's Hospital, a man who once ruled half the business world lay silent, his empire trembling without him. Billionaire Richard Halden, the steel-eyed tycoon whose decisions had shaped economies, had collapsed without warning in his office 2 nights before. 20 of the best doctors, neurologists, cardiologists, surgeons flown in from every corner of the globe, crowded around his bedside. They whispered in technical terms, shook their heads, and traded theories like men desperate to protect their reputations. But for all their brilliance, they were powerless. Richard's chest rose and fell with the steady hum of machines. Tubes curled like serpents across his body, monitors blinked warnings, and the finest medical knowledge money could buy seemed to have reached its limits. His daughter, Evelyn Halden, a woman raised with polished manners and a heart secretly starved of warmth, sat stiffly by his side, her manicured hands gripping his lifeless fingers. She had grown up watching him command boardrooms but never embrace her with softness. Now, the thought of losing him, the only family she had, was a hollow ache she hadn't expected to feel so deeply. 20 doctors, and none of you can tell me what's wrong. Evelyn's voice cracked in a way that startled even her. The doctors murmured excuses. It could be a rare neurological event. We've ruled out infection. His heart is stable, but something we can't detect is shutting him down. She turned away, tears stinging her eyes. Money had always solved their problems: school admissions, court cases, hostile takeovers. But money could not bribe life itself. And then, fate intervened. Outside Richard's room, a young woman mopped the corridor floors. Her name was Lila Ramos. At 23, she was invisible in this world of gleaming wealth. She worked double shifts as a janitor, her sneakers worn thin, her palms cracked from cleaning chemicals. She had no medical degree, no prestigious family name. But she had something else, a heart that noticed what others overlooked. That night, while pausing to rest her aching back, Lila heard the frantic discussion among the doctors. She glanced through the glass at the billionaire lying motionless, and something tugged inside her chest. She had seen her little brother collapse once, years ago, while they lived in a leaky basement apartment. Doctors in the free clinic had missed it until she begged them to check again. It had been a food allergy so rare no one thought to look for it. That moment taught her 2 things: never ignore your instincts, and sometimes love sees what expertise cannot. Now, standing at that window, she saw the same small twitch near Richard's throat. It was faint, barely noticeable, but it reminded her of that night with her brother. Swallowing her fear, she pushed open the door. "Excuse me," she whispered. Her voice sounded so small against the chorus of medical jargon that no one noticed. She stepped closer, her mop still in hand, her uniform damp with sweat. "Excuse me, doctors, I think." One of them turned, irritation flashing in his eyes. "This is not a place for janitorial staff." Evelyn looked up, ready to scold, but something in Lila's trembling determination made her pause. "Let her speak," Evelyn said quietly. The doctors shifted uncomfortably. Lila took a deep breath. "I'm not a doctor. But, when my little brother collapsed, he twitched just like that. They thought it was his heart, but it wasn't. It was something he ate. He had a rare allergy. If you test him for reactions, not just the usual ones, but the rare stuff, you might find something you missed." Silence filled the room. Some doctors scoffed under their breath. One muttered, "This is absurd." But Evelyn leaned forward. "Do it," she commanded. Her voice carried the weight of a woman used to being obeyed. Reluctantly, they ran the tests. Hours crawled by. Lila finished her shift, her stomach growling from skipping dinner, but she stayed outside the door, praying she wasn't wrong. At dawn, a commotion erupted inside the room. A doctor rushed out, disbelief on his face. "She was right," he said hoarsely. "It wasn't cardiac. It wasn't neurological. He had a rare reaction, an allergy triggered by something in his diet. The swelling nearly shut down his nervous system. We would never have found it if not for her." Evelyn covered her mouth, tears streaming freely. For the first time in years, hope surged in her chest. She ran to Lila, grabbed her hands, and whispered, "You saved my father." Richard's recovery was slow, but undeniable. Within a week, color returned to his face, his eyes fluttered open, and his gravelly voice croaked Evelyn's name. She wept openly, clutching his hand, while Lila slipped quietly out of the room, intending to disappear as she always had. But Evelyn did not let her. Days later, when the hospital stay ended, Evelyn found Lila in the staff cafeteria, eating a plain sandwich by herself. She sat opposite her, the diamond on her wristwatch catching the light, but her expression was softer than Lila had ever seen. "You didn't just save my father's life," Evelyn said. "You saved mine, too. For years, I thought love was measured in money, in how much I could give or buy. But you showed me love is in seeing what others don't. In caring enough to speak up, even when no one listens." Lila lowered her gaze, embarrassed. I only did what anyone would have done. No, Evelyn said firmly. Not anyone. 20 doctors with every resource at their disposal didn't see it. But you did. You gave us back a man the world thought untouchable. Word of the story spread beyond the hospital. Headlines blazed across newspapers. Poor girl saves billionaire after doctors fail. Strangers debated in coffee shops, marveling at how a janitor's observation had humbled the world of medicine. Some sneered that it was luck. But most found in it a reminder that humanity's greatest wealth is compassion, not money. Richard, still weak but deeply changed, asked to meet Lila privately. She entered his recovery suite nervously, her uniform freshly washed, her heart pounding. He studied her with eyes that once intimidated presidents and CEOs. Now, softened by vulnerability, they brimmed with gratitude. I built my life believing people were assets, numbers, pieces on a chessboard, Richard rasped. But you saw me as a person when even the doctors didn't. I owe you more than my fortune can repay. Lila shook her head. You don't owe me anything, sir. I only hoped someone would have done the same for my brother if I hadn't spoken up. For the first time in his life, Richard smiled, a real, unguarded smile. But he did repay her, in his way. He offered to fund her education, any path she wished. Nursing, medicine, social work, the choice was hers. Evelyn, too, promised to walk beside her, not as benefactor and servant, but as sisters in spirit. Years later, Lila Ramos stood on the stage of a packed auditorium, wearing her white coat as she graduated from medical school. Cameras flashed, but her gaze sought only two faces in the crowd, Evelyn, clapping with pride, and Richard, his once feared eyes shining with tears. Compassion, she said in her speech, is the greatest medicine. It sees what knowledge sometimes misses. It listens where ego is deaf. And it saves, not just lives, but souls. The hall erupted in applause. And in that moment, the poor janitor who once mopped hospital floors knew that she had not only saved a billionaire's life, but she had changed the measure of wealth itself. The storm outside New York raged as billionaire Richard Halden lay in a hospital bed, machines breathing for him. 20 of the best doctors, specialists flown from across the world, had tried everything. None could explain why the man who ruled empires was slipping away. His daughter, Evelyn, sat helpless by his side. She had grown up in wealth, but money could not buy the one thing she wanted now, her father's life. 20 doctors, and none of you know. She cried, her voice breaking. The room was heavy with silence. Down the hallway, a young janitor named Lila Ramos pushed her mop. She had no medical degree, no power, no voice in this world of wealth, but she had a memory. Years earlier, her little brother had collapsed from a rare allergy, dismissed by doctors until she begged them to check again. Through the glass, she noticed something no one else did, the faint twitch in Richard's throat. It was the same sign her brother once had. Her heart pounded as she stepped into the room. Excuse me, I think I've seen this before. It might not be his heart or his brain. It could be an allergy, something rare. The doctors scoffed, but Evelyn's tear-stained face turned toward Lila. Do it, she ordered. Tests were run. Hours passed. And at dawn, the results came back. The billionaire wasn't dying of some mysterious illness, he was in the grip of a rare allergic reaction the experts had overlooked. Lila had been right. Richard's color returned within days. His eyes fluttered open, and the man who once thought himself untouchable whispered his daughter's name. Evelyn sobbed, clutching his hand. But when she turned to thank Lila, the young janitor had slipped away, back to her shift, as if saving a billionaire's life was nothing more than part of her day. Not to Evelyn. She found Lila later in the cafeteria, eating a plain sandwich alone. You didn't just save my father, Evelyn said softly. You saved me. You showed me that compassion sees what knowledge misses. Word spread across the city. Headlines blazed. Poor girl saves billionaire after doctors fail. People argued whether it was luck or instinct. But most agreed, humanity's greatest wealth was kindness, not money. When Richard grew strong enough, he asked to meet her. The man whose signature once shook markets now looked at a janitor with tears in his eyes. You gave me back my life, he whispered. Let me give you yours. He offered to fund her education, nursing, medicine, whatever she dreamed. Evelyn promised to stand by her like a sister. Years later, Lila walked across a stage, wearing a white coat. Cameras flashed as she spoke. Compassion is the greatest medicine. It listens where ego is deaf. It sees what knowledge misses. And it saves, not just lives, but souls. In the crowd, Evelyn clapped with pride. Richard wiped his eyes. And the poor girl who once mopped hospital floors had not only saved a billionaire, she had changed the meaning of true wealth forever.